Track 5. Welcome to the Black Parade. The smell within Unit 13 still lingered beneath the aroma of rattled nerves that came with watching the Q1 crucible. The walls glowed faintly gold now from their broadcast screen, replaying clips of the race, the children cheering, the director's voice serenading, petals still flying. Miles's victory had already been looped twice, and every time he reached the house, all eyes of their unit turned to Jet as he crossed into the inner ring just behind him. Daisy could be heard singing from the kitchen, the most in tune anyone has ever heard her. Bianca sat pressed to the floor, eyes wide, mouth open in a half-laugh she couldn't close. Maddox stood behind her, arms crossed, grinning for the first time in years because the world remembered his number again. For a moment, the unit forgot anyone else was in the room. The recruiter stood short for her age, hair neatly parted, glasses catching the sheen from the light of melody. Her gray suit was pressed to perfection, with a white and gray crest pinned on her lapel. She watched from behind them, as still as a picture on the wall of harmony. She smiled faintly, hands folded behind her back. Her black-lit keeper beside her hadn't moved once. When Daisy finally turned around and noticed, her eyes went wide. "Oh, Curator's Mercy, you're still here. We didn't even offer you anything." She hurried toward the table, hair coming loose from its clip again. "You must think we're terrible hosts." The recruiter laughed softly. "Not at all. Watching your boys run was joy enough." Her voice carried that soft kind of certainty. "It's good to see a family celebrate performance. So many forget that joy is part of our duty." Daisy gestured to the table. "Please sit. We don't have much, but—" The recruiter raised a hand, smiling wider. "No, thank you. Enjoy the biohost you have. Please." But Daisy poured some anyway, set out the smallest bowl she could find, and called it hospitality. The recruiter sat, careful and proper, as did Unit 13, just not as proper. "Your unit is warm," she said, a red light beaming. "I can feel Frey here." She looked around with measured appreciation. The curator smiles on units like this. Daisy blushed as she attempted to fold her towel in her lap in a fancy way. "We do our part." Bianca slouched, yet clasped her hands and placed them on the table. Maddox faked a smile and nodded. But then, right on cue, the light of melody flickered. Just once. A thin breath of red, suddenly deepening into a thick, bright orange. As did the wrists of Unit 13. The room froze. Even the air seemed to tighten. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Daisy rose halfway from her chair, eyes bright, voice trembling between pride and relief. "Praise be to the curator," she screeched, like she was witnessing a miracle. Bianca gasped, hands over her dropped jaw, speechless. Maddox's breath caught the tail of the light. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He was stuck in a state of shock and confusion. Orange spilled over their hands, their cups, their kits, a color they had never seen inside their unit before. It shimmered like the stories, like the walls in their dreams, like the glow in faces on the wall of harmony. Bianca reached toward it, fingers hovering just inside the beam. "It's beautiful," she whispered. The word felt too small, too gray, but their portions of biohost would no longer be. "My mom would have loved this," she said. The recruiter sat still, Her keeper shifted beside her, and for a moment his head turned just slightly toward the wall of harmony. "Mhm," the recruiter breathed. A faint pulse flashed across the small screen on her wrist. She glanced down, reading the glow only she could see. Her smile sharpened. "Well?" she said, eyes lifting to the family again. "It seems someone from Family 13 has indeed found some attention." Maddox seemed annoyed now. As the unit turned to the recruiter, the keeper took one deliberate step backward, disappearing down the hallway. The sound of boots softened to nothing. Unit 13 was still in disarray. Daisy's mouth was now covered, whispering thanks under her breath. Bianca just kept gravitating toward the light, afraid to blink in case it vanished. Maddox's collection of emotions was completed with hope. The light startled even him, and Daisy glanced over anyway, half relieved, half worried. The orange stayed steady, unwavering. For a while they just sat there, unit and recruiter. The crucible replayed silently behind them. Then the recruiter leaned forward slightly, folding her hands. By the time the unit looked up again, the keeper was standing behind her once more. He tapped her on the shoulder and nodded as if to say, "All clear." "All right then," she said, with a kind exhale. "Now that we've all caught our breath, I am Bianca's recruiter. Shall we get to business?" She smiled. Before anyone could answer, Bianca blurted, "Excuse me, but what's a wilted petal?" The air stalled. Daisy's hand froze over her towel. Maddox stared down into his cup. Bianca caught her reflection in the keeper's visor and didn't like how small it made her look. The recruiter turned to her, amused. "What did you say, little one?" "You called us that," Bianca said quickly, "before my uncles left. You said Family 13 was a wilted petal. What does that mean?" The recruiter's smile didn't falter, though it sharpened at the edges. "Curious mind," she said, then glanced toward Daisy and Maddox. "Since you've raised her so well, why don't you tell her?" They didn't look at each other. They wore the same distant expression. We hoped this wouldn't come yet. It was Daisy's time to perform. "A wilted petal," she said slowly, "is what the house calls families who fell out of bloom." Bianca frowned. "What's that mean?" Daisy smoothed the tablecloth, though it didn't need smoothing. "It means," Bianca blinked, "we did something wrong?" The silence stretched. That was when the recruiter spoke. "No, Sprout," she said. "The house just sees you now." Maddox shifted. Daisy opened her mouth, then stopped. The recruiter leaned forward just slightly. Her voice stayed kind, warm, sharp enough to end things. "Feel Good Inc.'s policy has always been that today isn't about the past," she continued. "It's about what comes next." Rihanna met Bianca's eyes and smiled. Not cruel, not false, practiced. The room felt smaller after that. The orange light continued to glow. Bianca looked down at her wrist. It was still beautiful. But now it felt heavier. "And now," Rihanna said, glancing at her wrist as a faint violet light glowed. "Back to you, Bianca. What a day, isn't it?" Bianca straightened. "It's the start of my internship." "Indeed it is," Rihanna said, and I think you'll do very well. She stood, smooth, practiced. Now then, shall we start your adventure? I hear Family 13 knows their history. Bianca pushed back her chair with ease. Yes, ma'am. Oh, please, little one. Call me Rihanna. I'm not retired yet. Her eyes glancing to Daisy and Maddox. Bianca's mouth twitched. Daisy was already bustling for her Sprouts jacket, hands fluttering between buttons and Bianca's collar. Show them you know Eden, little bunny. Show them how brave you are. Bianca's smile didn't quite reach her eyes this time, but she held it there. Rihanna nodded toward the keeper, who moved first to the door, scanning the outside as they held it open. Bianca followed, then looked back to the unit, still seated around the table, still half bathed in the light of the Crucible replay. Bianca ran back to her grandparents one last time and gave them both a hug. It would be some time until they see one another again. In bloom, Bianca said brightly as she squeezed the two of them. Forever rooted, her unit answered, voices overlapping, proud and trembling at once. Bianca let go, ran to the door, and gave one last look before it closed. Daisy and Maddox froze for a moment, closed their eyes, and they remembered what it felt like the last time they felt this full. Then she slipped away to quietly collect her things, quick yet tired. And minutes later, the door opened and closed once more, leaving Maddox eclipsing the orange light alone. The corridor curved away from their unit, the floor sloping into the spiral ramp that wound down through their route. The lights burned bright and steady above, washing the walls in white. Rihanna's boots clicked in perfect rhythm. Bianca's smaller steps pattered to keep pace. Her hand brushed the railing once, twice, 3 times, just like performance prep had taught her. Always the inner seam, she whispered to herself. Rihanna smiled down at her. Very good. You remember your lessons. I do, Bianca said proudly. If you skip the third touch, Frey gets confused. Rihanna's smile held. And confusion manifests what? Weakness? Bianca replied. Rihanna nodded once. The pin on her lapel caught the light. Their walk kept a pace, as did the questions. Bianca, Rihanna continued, what is the mission statement of Feel Good Incorporated? Bianca didn't hesitate. Feel Good Inc. exists to preserve the light, to treat the performers, and serve what sustains Eden. Rihanna smiled. They reached a curve in the ramp where the glass widened into a long viewing pane. Beyond it, Bianca could only see her own reflection and the white glow of their route's inner seam. The outer world was just a bit too high for her line of sight. Can you see the rifts now? Rihanna asked. Bianca rose on her tiptoes, fingers curled over the rail. I've seen them before, she said. But someone always has to lift me. I'm too little. They found a quiet stretch away from a retired flyer asking for credits. Rihanna crouched, glasses catching the pale morning light. Would you like to see all of it? The fury? Yes, please. Bianca breathed. Rihanna lifted her easily, one arm braced across her back, the other steady beneath her knees. Bianca's eyes cleared the railing and widened. Her view opened to the west. The fury had pulled far from the cliffs. Low tide bore a long stretch of stone and sand that glistened like wet bone. Steam curled from the fractures below. the rifts breathing in their sleep. But Bianca wasn't looking at the rifts. She was looking past them, across the dark water where the Fury's edge thinned into a wavering bridge of foam and rock, across the seemingly impossible distance to the faint outline of a mainland, silent, steady, a shape the sea could never quite swallow. Her breath caught. "There," she whispered. "Is that where it leads?" Rihanna followed her gaze, not to the rifts, not to the breath of the earth, but to the place where the Fury's edge seemed, for a heartbeat, crossable. "It leads somewhere," Rihanna said gently, "until the tide returns." Bianca didn't answer. She studied the line of the Fury the way all children of Eden did, with that quiet, sharp part of a child that wondered about the risk, the run, the chance. Rihanna watched her face carefully. "It's beautiful," Bianca said. "Yes," Rihanna replied softly. "Dangerous things often are." Bianca's fingers tightened around Rihanna's sleeve, not in fear, but in understanding. Rihanna lowered her gently back to the ground. Bianca didn't look away until the rifts disappeared behind the rail. "But what do you really just see?" asked Rihanna. "We can't see it," Bianca said. "We can't see what?" Rihanna asked easily. Bianca hesitated, then added, "Long ago they called it a demon, or an alien, but another name stayed instead." Rihanna tilted her head. "And what name was that?" Bianca swallowed. "We don't say its name, so we call it the Shadow." Rihanna nodded once. "So if we can't see it, how do we know it's there?" "And we feel it. It's always around us, to lure us to the rifts." "And what could you feel?" she asked. Bianca frowned, thinking. "The feeling comes has many names, but your body will feel different." Rihanna smiled faintly. "Perhaps." Bianca looked down. They walked on. The keeper followed several paces behind them, visor catching the light. "And if a rift ever opened near you," Rihanna said calmly, "they would go first." Gesturing towards her keeper, Bianca's eyes widened. They stopped at the base of the route, where a grand archway rose before them. White stone, perfect lines, the crest of the curator set above the doors. Rihanna rested her hand against the frame. "Performance, Bianca," she said gently. "One of Eden's pillars. And the other pillar?" Bianca looked at the recruiter's violet-lit wrist. "Preservation," she said softly. Rihanna smiled. "Very good." Above them, the sign glowed faintly. "Performance Prep." "After you, Sprout." The doors to Performance Prep slid open without sound. Inside was light. Nothing but light. Fluorescent white poured from the ceiling. No color, no texture, no scent. Just a single desk set perfectly in the center, as if someone had measured the distance from every wall to make sure it belonged there. Behind it sat a teacher. They looked tired. A mirror of performance. No expression, no sound, only stillness waiting for and to give instruction. Rihanna's voice echoed softly against the sterile walls. "Recruiter Rihanna. Family 13. Tour in progress. Candidate Bianca to lead." The teacher blinked once, the light catching in their eyes like glass. She nodded, wordless, and gestured toward the platform behind them. Confirmed, they said, in a voice that wasn't a voice. Performance tour, authorized. Bianca turned toward the platform. 7 circular lights glowed at its edge: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, the full span of the curator's color. Although there was still one button left underneath the rest: white. She stepped onto it, small hands gripping the rail. Rihanna followed, standing beside her. Behind them, their keeper remained motionless, visor still dim. Go on, Rihanna said quietly. Show me your colors. She scanned the arc of light, eyes wide, whispering the order to herself the way she'd been taught. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Her finger hovered, then pressed a circle. Violet. The platform shuddered faintly, then began its descent. The glass around them cleared, revealing the levels below, each one glowing in its own hue, each a perfect ring of order and motion. The first floor, red room. Children no taller than a shrub crawled slowly on treadmills, their little bodies keeping the rhythm as their teachers adjusted posture and pace. Their eyes followed screens filled with letters, shapes, and looping cartoons that never finished a scene. Bright colors, gentle voices. Nothing stayed long enough to settle. The walls blazed red, but everything else, the treadmills, the uniforms, the ceiling, was white. The platform drifted lower, a touch older now, their strides quicker, walking while watching. Screens showed short clips, a character laughing, a chase beginning, a song's opening notes, always cutting away before the moment landed. The orange light washed across their smiling faces as they moved in time, half humming without knowing why. As they continued lower, the color deepened. The levels passed in a blur. Children sitting in rows, stitching the very uniforms and shoes they wore, threading needles with fingers the right size for this type of work. Above them, images played softly. Refrains, jokes without punchlines, melodies missing their chorus. Some children mouthed words they almost remembered. Others worked faster when the sound swelled. The descent continued, the rooms growing wider, the children older, the rhythm steadier, the hum of the fray swelling around them like a living heart. Here, the fragments lingered. Screens no longer faced forward. They surrounded. Scenes looped longer. Songs played nearly whole, stopping just before their release. Media flashed and looped in practiced intervals. Dialogue echoed faintly between movements. The children ran without looking down, feet moving on instinct, eyes caught by rhythm and familiarity. Floor by floor, the spectrum aged and the smiles grew wider. The children grew taller, more synchronized, as if the color itself came alive as they performed, one motion, working as one. The glow of their metrics pulsing softly along the walls. The teachers all looked the same. A face like that said they wanted to be there, yet couldn't help but want out at the same time. They all had orange lights on their wrists. Bianca's reflection followed her down, small and silent in the glass. Rihanna said nothing. Neither did she. At least, not at first. Awe filled the space between them, like the heartbeat of the fray itself. Bianca watched the floors pass, the colors blurring together. So much light, so many screens. Always on to the next one. Recruiter Rihanna? She asked softly. Yes, Sprout? Bianca hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the rail. I heard there was a place that explains things, she said, carefully. Rihanna's eyes stayed forward. Things from before. At least that's what they say, Bianca added. Somewhere below them, a level chimed. They say there's a library, Bianca continued, quieter now, with an owl on the door. Rihanna finally looked down at her. The owl's library, she said, not unkindly. The platform continued its descent. My Uncle Jet mentioned it once, Bianca said. He said everyone talks about it, but he's someone who likes to tell stories. Rihanna's smile softened, almost amused. The wilted petals do love their stories, she said. She lifted one finger. Not sharp, not threatening. Just enough. Stories, she added, are not meant to be explained. Bianca nodded slowly, though she didn't fully understand. They are meant to make you feel, Rihanna continued, voice calm. Made to make you feel safe. Bianca looked back at the passing floors, at the screens, at the endless motion. Rihanna's smile softened again. One day, when your performance is complete, you'll be given all the explanation you need. Bianca's eyes lit up. So it's real? Rihanna smiled. Small, measured. It's a place for those who are cleared, she said. Not for routine use. Bianca frowned. What's the difference? For wilted petals? Rihanna replied gently. Timing. Oh, Bianca said. And it is a library after all. It doesn't get more boring than that, Rihanna said, smiling. Bianca nodded. Nothing was said after that. Their breathing followed them down. Deeper breaths now somehow, quieter. Then the platform slowed, and they reached their floor. The violet room. The platform came to a stop. The air here felt denser, like the light itself had weight.